When we think of a villain, our minds usually go to a physical threat. Someone you can punch, someone you can outsmart, someone you can, defeat. But what happens when the villain isn't a person, but a problem? When the attack isn't on a hero's body, but on the very idea of what it means to be a hero in the first place? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into today. And really, it all boils down to this one simple question. How do you defeat an icon? See, once a hero becomes a symbol, just beating them in a fight doesn't cut it anymore. To truly, actually destroy them, you have to go after the symbol itself. You have to wage a war on meaning.
So here's our game plan. We're going to trace this escalation of threat. We'll start with attacks that go way beyond a simple punch, then dive into how villains can literally weaponize biology. From there, we'll look at the nightmare of imprisoning the mind, and then the ultimate threat, an attack that shatters the very idea of a hero. And by the end, you'll see what these villains are really all about.
All right, let's jump in. Our journey here begins by looking beyond just the physical fight. See, the most interesting, the most terrifying antagonists, they don't just get stronger, they change the whole game. They evolve from a physical roadblock into a philosophical crisis that makes a hero question their entire reason for being. And this right here is the key to everything we're talking about today. The real battleground isn't some city street, it's the hero's identity. The most brilliant villains aren't trying to break bones, they're trying to break the concepts that give the hero purpose. Hope, justice, truth. This is a war that's fought on every level, the body, the mind, and even reality itself. So let's start at that first level and see how this works. Here, the attack is still physical, but it is horrifyingly personal. We're talking about a villain who doesn't just fight a hero's body, he corrupts it and rewrites it from the inside out. Everybody meet Dr. Armin Ikaris. He was a scientist at LexCorp who had some seriously bad luck and became patient zero for something called the Amazovirus. Now, for everyone else, the virus was a death sentence, but for Ikaris, his body stabilized. He became something totally new and permanent, a living, breathing incubator for the virus. He was the contagion. The way his power works is called rapid biological metamorphosis, and that's a mouthful. But what it means is way more than just copying powers. Icarus's body physically rewrites its own DNA and structure, on the spot, to perfectly replicate any power he sees. He doesn't just mimic it, he becomes it. And this table just shows how insane and frankly how grotesque this power is. He sees Superman flying, he doesn't just start hovering. No, his body physically grows these huge, bat-like wings. He wants heat vision, his eyeballs literally mutate to shoot lasers. He can even create living organic copies of Green Lantern's energy constructs or Wonder Woman's lasso. It's just wild. He turns our own powers into these biological horrors. The comic uses this amazing analogy for him, calls him a living universal adapter plug. But instead of plugging into an outlet, he's plugging into biology, instantly rewiring his own body to match whatever superpower is in front of him. It's a kind of attack that turns a hero's own nature against them. Okay, so that's an attack on the body itself. But what could possibly be more terrifying than having your body corrupted? I'll tell you what, having your mind, your actual consciousness, trapped in a prison for all of eternity. Let's really escalate the threat. So, we all know Darkseid's Omega Beams, right? Zigzagging energy blasts. That's a physical attack. It's quick, it's destructive, it gets the job done. But the Omega Sanction? Oh, that's something else entirely. It's not a blast, it's a banishment. It's a punishment designed specifically not to kill your body, but to torture your soul forever. So how does this life trap even work? Well, first, your soul gets ripped out of your body and thrown into this little pocket reality. Then, you're forced to live through an endless loop of awful, miserable, synthetic lives, one after another. And the goal is just as brutal as it sounds. Use that endless torture to completely shatter your will and erase any memory of who you once were. The sources have this absolutely bone-chilling name for it, the death that is life. Think about that. You never die, but you're forced to endure an eternity of suffering. It is the absolute pinnacle of psychological warfare, an attack designed to wipe out not just a person, but their very will to exist. Okay, so we've gone from the body to the mind. Now it's time for the final jump. What if an attack could just bypass both of those and go straight for the fabric of reality itself? An attack on what a hero actually means. This, my friends, is the ontological attack.
Now, to get this, you have to wrap your head around a concept called consensus reality. So, just imagine a place where the laws of physics are literally shaped by what people believe. In a place like that, a punch is useless. An attack has to be an argument, a weaponized dialectic. It's basically an idea bomb designed to make a hero's very definition of themselves crash like a computer.
And this is exactly what they did to Superman. This attack, called chaotic fission, wasn't some kind of energy blast. No, it was a logic bomb. It took 4 completely contradictory ideas about who Superman is and forced them to collide inside his head all at once. The goal? To overload his conceptual identity and make it collapse. So let's break down the payload of this idea bomb. It was a 4-pronged assault. You had the Eradicator, hitting him with stagnation, trying to tie him to his dead past. Then Cyborg Superman comes in with dissociation, trying to sever his mind from his body. Then Steel introduces the idea of transformation, that you can choose who you become. And finally, Superboy acts as the glue, fusing it all together with ambiguity, forcing all these contradictions to be true at the same time.
But here's where it gets really weird. The attack, it had a catastrophically successful result. It didn't destroy Superman, it shattered all of his limitations. He went through what's called an apotheosis, which is a very fancy way of saying he became a god. He wasn't a person anymore. He was this abstract, primordial force of pure will, an unbound hope. But this was not a victory. This new god mode state was actually a metaphysical prison. The source calls it the Schopenhauer effect. This godlike Superman started radiating a psychic field that trapped everyone, himself included, in this endless pendulum swing between the pain of wanting something and the absolute boredom of getting it. Free will? Gone. Replaced by a static, meaningless existence. So, okay, we've gone from a virus that rewrites the body to a trap that erases the mind to an idea bomb that shatters reality. Why? Why create antagonists that are this complex? What's the point of a villain who is basically a walking, talking philosophical argument?
Well, the answer is right here. At the end of the day, the whole conflict boils down to a battle between 2 big philosophical ideas. On one side, you have Schopenhauer's will to live, which is just this blind, irrational, and kind of painful struggle to keep existing. And on the other, you have Nietzsche's will to power, which isn't about dominating people, but about overcoming challenges, creating your own meaning, and finding purpose in the struggle itself. And that, right there, is the whole point. The ultimate villain acts as a mirror. It reflects a hero's deepest fears and their own contradictions right back at them. An antagonist like the organic Amazo, or a weapon like the Omega Sanction, they force the hero to ask fundamental questions about who they are. And in doing so, they force us to ask those same questions about ourselves.
They move the entire conflict away from the physical and into the philosophical. And that really just leaves us with one final, lingering thought. What if the ultimate enemy isn't some monster you can punch, but a question you can't answer?